The image was shocking, almost impossible to believe. There, in the middle of the gleaming Tokyo Metropolitan Gymnasium, sat the queen of Asian Volleyball, let's call her Reiko Nakamura, with her face buried in her hands, sobbing uncontrollably. Reiko was a machine, a player known for her icy demeanor and flawless technique. She was a captain of the Japanese national team, a squad ranked in the top 10 globally. Just 2 hours earlier, she had walked into the arena with a smirk, waving to the cameras, looking at the other side of the net with pure disdain. The opponents? The Philippines women's national team. The underdogs. The team Reiko had publicly called tourists in a pre-game interview. She had promised a quick 3-0 sweep, joking that she had a dinner reservation to catch. But as a final whistle blew and the stadium erupted in cheers, it wasn't the Philippines going home early. It was Reiko's ego that had been shattered into a million pieces. To understand why these tears mattered so much, we have to rewind to the days leading up to the match. The Asian Volleyball Confederation Cup is a brutal tournament. The hierarchy is clear. China, Japan, and Thailand are the titans. The Philippines? They were seen as a happy team, great spirit, lots of heart, but lacking the height and technical precision to challenge the giants. Reiko Nakamura represented the absolute peak of that hierarchy. Standing 6'2", with a vertical leap that defied gravity, she was a terrifying presence. She played with a surgical coldness. She didn't celebrate, she executed. To her, volleyball was a science, and errors were unacceptable. She viewed teams like the Philippines not as competitors, but as warm-up fodder, mere obstacles to be cleared on the way to the gold medal match. The controversy began at the press conference the day before the game. A reporter asked Reiko about her preparation for the Philippine team. Reiko didn't even look up from her phone. She chuckled, leaned into the microphone, and said, "Preparation? You don't study for a recess break. We will respect the game, but let's be honest, they are short. They play loose. It will be a good practice session for our reserves." The room went silent. It was a blatant display of arrogance. She didn't just dismiss their skills, she dismissed their existence as professional athletes. The clip went viral instantly in the Philippines. It wasn't just trash talk, it was an insult to the Puso, heart, of every Filipino player. The Philippine team saw the video. In their hotel room, the mood shifted from nervous excitement to cold, hard anger. The team captain, a veteran setter known for her resilience, gathered the girls. They weren't the tallest. Their average height was significantly lower than the Japanese squad. They didn't have the multi-million-dollar training facilities or the advanced analytics. But they had something Reiko didn't understand. They had indignity. There is no fuel more potent than being told you don't belong. The captain replayed Reiko's interview on the TV. "Watch this," she told her teammates. "Remember her face. Remember her laugh. Tomorrow, we don't just play volleyball. We fight for our respect." Game day arrived. The arena was packed, mostly with Japanese fans expecting a slaughter, but dotted with pockets of loud, passionate overseas Filipino workers, OFWs. When the teams warmed up, the difference was stark. The Japanese team moved like a military unit, synchronized, silent, perfect. Reiko was blasting spikes into the floor that sounded like gunshots. The Philippine team looked smaller, scrambling after balls, their jerseys looking a bit looser. Reiko watched them from across the net during the coin toss. She didn't make eye contact. She smirked at her libero, pointing at the Philippine spikers and miming a too small gesture. It was psychological warfare. She wanted them to feel defeated before the first serve was even tossed. The first set went exactly as Reiko predicted. It was a massacre. Japan came out firing. Their serves were like lasers, targeting the seams of the Philippine defense. Reiko was unstoppable. She hit over the blocks. She hit through the blocks. Every time she scored, she would turn her back immediately, not even acknowledging the opponent, as if scoring against them was a chore. The score was 25-12, a blowout. The Philippine team looked shell-shocked. They were rushing their sets, miscommunicating on receives, and hitting balls out of bounds. The happy energy was gone. They looked like they wanted to disappear. Reiko was laughing on the bench during the timeout, clearly bored. The second set began with the same narrative. Japan took an early 8-3 lead. The commentator said, "This is going to be over in under an hour." The difference in class is just too wide. Reiko was subbed out for a few points of rest, a sign of ultimate disrespect. She didn't even think she needed to play the full set to win. But sitting on the bench, she missed something. She missed a shift in the air. The Philippine coach had stopped drawing plays on the whiteboard. He looked at his girls and shouted, "Stop playing their game. We are not robots. We are fighters. Play with your heart. If you dive, you dive. If you hit hard. Wake up." Something clicked. It started with the libero, the defensive specialist of the Philippines. A Japanese spike came rocketing towards a backline, a sure point. But out of nowhere, the Iron Eagle of the Philippines threw her body across the floor, digging the ball up with one hand. It wasn't pretty, but it was alive. The ball floated to the setter, who set a quick ball to the outside hitter. Boom! The Philippine spiker, standing only 5'6", leaped with everything she had and found a hole in the Japanese block. Point Philippines. The crowd of OFWs roared. It was just 1 point, but it felt different. It was defiant. Reiko was subbed back in immediately. She looked annoyed. She demanded the ball. She wanted to crush this little rebellion instantly. She called for a back row attack. She soared through the air, cocking her arm back for a thunderous spike. But waiting for her was a Philippine middle blocker, the Typhoon. She wasn't as tall as Reiko, but her timing was perfect. She jumped, pressed her hands over the net, and roofed the Japanese star. The ball bounced off her hands and slammed straight down onto Reiko's side of the court. A kill block. Reiko landed. Stunned, she looked at the net. The Philippine blocker was staring right back at her, screaming, "Let's go!" The fear was gone. The Philippines took the second set, 26-24. The stadium was confused. This wasn't in the script. Reiko walked back to her bench, her face red. She threw her water bottle down. She was shouting at her teammates in Japanese, blaming them for bad sets, for being lazy. The crack in the armor had appeared. The perfect machine was overheating. The Philippine team, on the other hand, was dancing in their huddle. They were smiling. They were high-fiving. They remembered who they were. They weren't trying to out-robot Japan. They were out-hustling them. They were playing scrappy volleyball, ugly, chaotic, and beautiful. Set 3 was a war. Reiko realized she had to take over. She started playing with a vengeance, hitting harder than ever. But the Philippines had figured her out. They knew she was angry, and anger makes you predictable. They started positioning their defense perfectly. They were digging balls that shouldn't be diggable. They were scrambling, rolling, diving into the scorer's table to save possessions. Every time Reiko thought she had a kill, the ball came back. It was frustrating. It was exhausting. You could see Reiko breathing heavy, hands on her hips. She looked across the net and saw the Filipinos smiling, sweating, and asking for more. The pivotal moment came at 20-20 in the third set. A long rally ensued, the kind that burns your lungs. The ball crossed the net 8 times. Reiko spiked it. Dig. Japan blocked. Cover. Philippines tipped. Dive. Finally, the Philippine setter did something unexpected. Instead of setting to the spiker, she dumped the ball into the center of the court, a 1-2 play. The Japanese defense, expecting another power hit, was caught flat-footed. The ball hit the floor. The whistle blew. The Philippines took the lead. Reiko stayed at the spot where the ball landed. She had been outsmarted, not overpowered. Her arrogance had made her blind to the creativity of the opponent. The Philippines won the third set. They were up 2-1. The upset was brewing. The atmosphere in the arena had shifted completely. The neutral Japanese fans, usually polite and reserved, were starting to murmur. They could sense the panic in their own team. The OFWs, however, were in full voice. Filipinos. Filipinos. The chant echoed off the rafters, drowning out the PA system. It sounded like a home game in Manila. Reiko looked up at the crowd, her eyes wide. She was losing control of the narrative. She was a Goliath, and David had just picked up a very large rock. In the fourth set, Japan fought back. They are a world-class team for a reason. Their coach made adjustments, and they targeted the shorter Philippine blockers. Reiko finally found her rhythm again, scoring 5 points in a row. Japan took the fourth set comfortably. It was now 2-2. A fifth and final set. The tiebreaker. Race to 15 points. In volleyball, the fifth set is entirely psychological. It's not about skill anymore. It's about who cracks first. Reiko stood on the service line. She looked tired. Her makeup was smudged. The Ice Queen looked human. The fifth set began with a bang. The Philippines scored the first 2 points. Reiko scored the next 2. 2-2, 3-3, 4-4. It was neck and neck. Every point was a battle. But the body language was telling. The Japanese players were looking at Reiko with fear. Fear of messing up. Fear of her anger. The Philippine players were looking at each other with trust. When a Filipino player made a mistake, her teammates patted her back. Bawi lang. We'll get it back. When a Japanese player made a mistake, Reiko glared at them. The pressure on the Japanese side was suffocating. At 8-7, the team switched sides. The Philippines had the lead. During the switch, Reiko walked past the Philippine captain. Usually, she would look away. But this time, she looked at her. She saw a player who was 5 inches shorter than her, sweating, bruised, but standing tall with a fierce light in her eyes. Reiko felt a twinge of doubt. Why won't they just quit? She thought. Why are they still fighting? She couldn't process that a team she deemed tourists had the audacity to push her to the brink. The score reached 13-13. 2 points away from victory for either side. The tension was unbearable. Japan served. The Philippines received perfectly. The setter called a play for their star spiker. But instead of hitting it cross-court, she hit a cut shot, a sharp angle that landed right on the line. The line judge raised a flag. In. Match point for the Philippines. 14-13. The arena held its breath. Reiko was in the front row. She had to block this next point to save her team. She had to save her reputation. The Philippines served. It was a float serve, wobbly and tricky. The Japanese receiver shanked it slightly, but the setter managed to push it out to Reiko. This was it. The script was written for her to save the day. Reiko approached the ball. She jumped. She saw the Philippine block forming, 2 smaller players. She decided to power through them. She swung with all her might. Smack! The ball hit the hands of the Philippine blockers. But instead of blasting through, the ball slowed down. It trickled off the blockers' fingers and dropped into the empty space behind the Japanese defense. Reiko turned around to chase it. She dove. She stretched her long arm out. Her fingers scraped the floor, but she was a fraction of a second too late. The ball hit the ground. Pip-pip-pip. The referee blew the final whistle. The game was over. The Philippines had done the impossible. They had beaten the giant. The Philippine players screamed and collapsed into a pile of joy on the court. The bench rushed in. Tears of happiness were flowing. Flags were waving. It was pandemonium. But the camera cut to the other side of the net. Reiko Nakamura was still on the floor, in the position where she had failed to dig the final ball. She didn't stand up. Her shoulders started to shake. She wasn't just disappointed. She was broken. The dinner reservation she joked about? Gone. The practice session? It had become her nightmare. The realization hit her like a freight train. Her arrogance had cost her team the game. She had disrespected the game, and the game had humbled her. Her teammates tried to help her up, but she waved them away. She sat there on the court, knees pulled to her chest, sobbing. It was a raw, ugly cry. The crying of someone who has lost their identity. For years, she believed she was superior simply because of her pedigree and her height. She believed that smaller nations didn't deserve to be on the same court. Now, those same tourists were celebrating a historic victory a few feet away from her. The humiliation was total. The Philippine captain saw Reiko crying. In a moment of pure class, she stopped celebrating. She walked under the net to the Japanese side. The crowd went quiet, watching. Was she going to gloat? Was she going to trash talk back? No, that is not the Filipino way. She knelt beside Reiko and put a hand on her shoulder. She offered a few words of comfort. We don't know exactly what was said, but Reiko looked up, tears streaming down her face, and saw the face of the woman she had mocked. She saw only kindness. Reiko slowly stood up. She wiped her eyes. She looked at the Philippine captain and, for the first time in her career, she bowed. It wasn't a quick, polite bow. It was a deep bow of respect. She shook the captain's hand with both of hers. It was an admission of defeat, but also an admission of error. She acknowledged that heart is not measured in inches. The crowd applauded, a thunderous ovation that acknowledged the sportsmanship even more than the victory. The post-game interview was a complete reversal of the pre-game one. Reiko stood there, eyes red and puffy. The reporter asked her what happened. Reiko took a deep breath and said, "I was wrong. I called them tourists, but they were warriors. They taught me a lesson today. Volleyball is not just about height. It is about spirit. They wanted it more than me. I am ashamed of my words, and I apologize to the Philippines." It was a humbling moment that was broadcast across Asia. Back in the Philippines, the country was in a frenzy. The video of the final point and Reiko's tears became an instant classic. It was shared on every timeline, played on every news station. It became a symbol of national pride. It resonated because every Filipino knows what it feels like to be underestimated, to be seen as small or poor by the rest of the world. This victory wasn't just about volleyball, it was vindication. It proved that we belong on the world stage. The Iron Eagle libero and the Typhoon middle blocker became overnight celebrities, but they remained humble. When asked about Reiko, they simply said, "She is a great player. We were just lucky today." But everyone knew it wasn't luck. It was a result of years of hard work, suffering, and a refusal to accept the labels others put on you. They showed that a happy team can also be a deadly team. For Reiko, this loss was a turning point of her career. She didn't quit. She went back to training, but she changed. She stopped the trash talk. She started mentoring younger players. She became a more complete leader. Years later, she would admit in a documentary that the loss to the Philippines was the most important match of her life. "It broke my ego," she said, "so that I could build my character." This story serves as a warning to anyone who thinks talent alone is enough. Talent without respect is fragile. Arrogance creates blind spots. Reiko was so focused on looking down on her opponents that she didn't see them rising up to hit her in the mouth. She forgot the golden rule of sports. The moment you think you are too good to lose, you have already lost. So, the next time you see a giant facing an underdog, don't assume the outcome. Don't look at the height difference or the rankings. Look at the eyes. Look at the heart. Because sometimes, the giant has feet of clay, and the underdog has a heart of steel. The Philippines women's team proved that on a random Tuesday in Tokyo, leaving the queen of volleyball crying on the court she thought she owned. As the lights dimmed in the gymnasium, the scoreboard still showed the impossible result. Philippines 3, Japan 2. It was a reminder to the world. You can mock our height. You can mock our facilities. You can call us tourists. But never, ever mock our heart. Because when you wake up the Filipino spirit, you might just find yourself in tears, wondering how the small team made you feel so small.